Hey, hey, hey. So anyway, I wanted to come on here and talk to y'all because last night I had this conversation with my husband that kind of disturbed me, and I wanted to just kind of talk with it. We went out to dinner last night to Longhorn because my husband's a big steak eater. He loves steaks. So and we get ready to embark on a new healthier lifestyle. So he was like, well, before we start doing that, I want to make sure I get in my last few steaks. So we went out to Longhorn last night. He had a couple of drinks, so he was doing a little bit of talking. And it actually started off, we was talking about this show called The Get Down. I don't know if y'all remember, it was on Netflix. It probably still is, but maybe about 4 years ago. It's a show about when the disco era was going out and hip hop was coming in, but it was a really good show. The first season and the second season, they jacked it up. So, and he was just saying, I really like that show because it was really realistic. It was based on real information. It was like they was really accurate in the way that they portrayed it. And I agreed with him. And then he said, I don't really like shows like Power. Power is, to him, Power is not based on anything reality. So I said, well, why do you say it's not based on reality? He said, well, because they make it seem like Ghost and Tommy been selling drugs since they was like 12 years old, and here they are grown 30 years old. They ain't never been to jail. They ain't never been shot at. Like, they ain't never been killed. And I guess that's true. That makes sense. And then he said, like, I don't like shows like The Cosby Show is unrealistic. So I was like, well, how's The Cosby Show unrealistic? I said, well, it's TV, so, all of it is unrealistic. But how is the Cosby Show particularly unrealistic? He said, well, because, she a lawyer, married to a doctor. They got this nice home, this nice kids and family and everything. So I was like, why is that not realistic? He was like, well, who you know like that? I said, well, I do. I have a lot of people that I know like that. I got to be like my people in my family that's, like that. So he was like, well, I don't think that that's realistic. Not from where I come from. Now, me and my husband actually grew up on the same block. I knew him since, I don't even know, all my life. Well, at least since I was about in elementary school. But we did grow up in two different worlds. It's crazy because we lived on the same block, but we lived in two different worlds. He lived in an apartment building on the corner. I lived in a house on a block. And we weren't really friends back then. In fact, we used to not even get along. I sucked my dog on him one time, and he bit him. That's probably because he was just, to me, I thought he was nice looking, but he wasn't my type. He was into the streets. So his reality is a little different from my reality. So, but it just bothered me that he was saying that it was unrealistic that black people could be successful. And it got me thinking that, what? Most people get their reality from television. Like, television is what teaches people about life, really, and what's supposed to be going on. But if people really stop to think about it, none of that is reality. That's programming. If you watch TV or in the movies, you very rarely see any successful black people. Black people are either pimps or drug dealers. They're in and out of jail. The men's always cheating on their wives. The women are prostitutes. It's like, you don't really see us being successful in too much of anything. If we are successful, it's because we're like Ghosts. We was a drug dealer and we became successful, Like, they don't really show us in the light. I was trying to really think about what shows were we successful business people. And I remember the Jeffersons, which is like out in the 70s. Now, George Jefferson was a successful businessman. He had a dry cleaners, and his dry cleaners was successful. So they actually show him moving on up to the east side to a deluxe apartment in the sky. He didn't have a house. They put him in an apartment in the sky. But he was married to Weezy, and they had a maid, a black lady. That's another position. You see, black people always working for white people. They always the maid. But Weezy didn't have a job, I don't think. She wasn't a stay-at-home mom because Lionel was grown when the show came on. He's like in his 20s, so she was just a housewife, but she didn't do any housework because they had a maid. So I really don't know what Weezy did, like, other than be George's wife. So that there was a successful man, but his wife, she wasn't doing anything. Like, I don't know what she did. She didn't. The kid was grown, and the kid stayed there. I don't even know what the kid did. He was in his 20s, but I don't even think he didn't work his father's job. You just saw Lionel Only thing I know is you remember he dated the girl next door. But see, that's the type of things that we really saw. I was always trying to think of other things like later on in like the 90s, and I was the 70s. I don't remember any real black shows in the 80s other than the Cosby Show. And then in the 90s, I remember Steve Harvey. He was a teacher, but they did have a black principal at the school. Jamie Foxx, his family owned a hotel. So, but he worked at the hotel with the family. Who else had it? Martin. Martin didn't have a really family. He was okay. He was a television host, a local TV host. He did okay. He was first was radio, then went to TV. He didn't really have a family. He had a girlfriend. They did become married, so he did have a wife later towards the end of the show. But like other than that, there weren't any. You don't see. They do have shows where black people pay doctors too. There's a lot of TV shows where there would be a black doctor in a cast of people. But for the most part, when it's a show like now, I started thinking about 2000. Can't remember any successful black show after 2000, like up until now. All we have is reality shows where everybody just act crazy. They may appear to be successful. We don't really know how they get their money, other than the show give them money to fight each other and act ratchet and retarded. So that's the only visions you really see of black people on TV nowadays. Like they're in a reality show where they're supposed to be friends, but they fight. I mean, sometimes friends do get in arguments, but I don't know too many people that really be physically fighting their friends and throwing drinks at them. Like, I've been living a lot of years, got a lot of friends, and I never threw a drink on a friend. A friend has never threw a drink with me. Never even gotten in arguments with friends. Now, I might have had a few disagreements that we might have talked about and cleared away, but was never physical, was never cursing and yelling and calling each other names. Like, none of that is a reality. But on TV, it is. And people see TV and they think that this is the reality. So you grow up thinking that, it's unrealistic for a black person to be successful and marry another successful black person. And that's scary to me, because that means that you're allowing this television set or these movies to program your mind into thinking that this is reality, when it's the total opposite. They call it television programming for a reason, because they're programming your mind, and they are programming you to not be successful, really. They're programming you to be dumb and to not be successful, because all of the media is on. First of all, if you don't know this, you should know this by now. The whole world is pretty much run by 13 families. And out of those 13 families, 6 of them own all of the television or media outlets. And it is their job to program your mind. Because see, if you're not programming your mind, there's somebody always willing and able to do it. You can destroy a person if you can take control of their mind. Like, you don't even have to go to war or fight a person. If you can get into their head, you've already won. So that's why you got to always guard your mind. Your mind is the most important thing about you. That's your superpower. Like, we all have a superpower, and our mind is our superpower, and we don't even realize it. We just let people willy-nilly program that mind because we don't know. Nobody ever taught you. You never looked into it and found out. You can do anything that you desire to do if you first learn how to control your mind. And if you're not controlling your mind, somebody else is controlling it. Trust and believe that. Because if they don't control your mind, they can't control you. You will be able to accomplish anything you want. Everybody would be rich. Everybody would have their own. They wouldn't depend. See, if they can control your mind, they can get you to become dependent, and that's what it is. We have all we have all at some point been programmed, and the programming is to make us dependent on certain things. See, if you got to depend on somebody to get your food, then you're never going to be able to control your life. If you have to depend on somebody to get your water, you're not going to be able to have full control over your life. If you have to depend on somebody to get a paycheck, to get money, to get income, to get cash, to get whatever currency that we're using, you you're not going to be able to control your life. Because if you can't control those things, you can sit there, well, I control my food. No, you don't. You go to the grocery store. The grocery store shut down, or the grocery store don't get supplies. Where you at? Oh, I control my money. I go to work. No, you don't. The job can fire you today, tomorrow, any second. They can call you because, you're an at-will employee. They can hire you at will. They can fire you at will. But when it's your turn to go, you got to give like a 2 weeks notice. But they can fire you like today, tomorrow. They can force you to put things into your body that you don't want to have in your body because you scared of not getting a paycheck. That's called control. And it's because we've been programmed to depend on them. Before they started programming us, everybody made their own food. Everybody made their own money. Everybody built their own house. They made their own clothes. They did everything for themselves. We got technology. We got lazy. We got able to sit down and just let other people do things that we became controlled by. And it's because of the programming. We have to snap out of that programming. We got to start understanding how to use our mind. We have to start learning how to think for ourselves. We have to start reprogramming our mind, getting all of the old stuff out of our heads and reprogramming our mind. That's what we need to do. We have to reprogram almost everything about what we think is reality into what is really reality. And you got to first start by just focusing on, or first understanding who you are and how your mind is made up. You can find this information out anyway. Just research it. I'll be doing some teaching on it, but your mind is really important to understand. You'll do yourself a disservice if you live the rest of your life and don't figure out how your mind operates. Because if you learn to operate your mind in the proper way so that it works for you and not against you, it's a superpower. Like, it literally is. You'd be like one of the X-Men, except it's like, you're a superpower. I want to stress that. It's a superpower. Learning how to program your mind for success, program your mind for happiness, program your mind for finances, program your mind for whatever it is that you want. But it starts with programming your mind and deprogramming your mind from the way that you have already been thinking, because other people have programmed you to think. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful Monday. It's the beginning of the week. Start reprogramming your mind. And let me tell you, the best time to start reprogramming your mind is when you first wake up and when you go to bed. When you go to bed at night, you first wake up, because that's when your subconscious mind is more readily available, because your conscious mind is tired and ready to go to sleep. So those are the two best ways to start reprogramming your mind. But look into it. Research it. Look it up. Look up the mind and how it operates. And not only that, start teaching this to your children. Start teaching your children the power of their mind. Don't let them go through life being programmed by TV, where they think that black people being successful is unrealistic, unless they're a drug dealer or, who unrealistically lasted for 20 decades and now sitting on top of the world. See, we got to get out of that programming. We got to start knowing that we are successful. We can be whatever we want to be, anytime we want to be it. So as soon as we change our programming so that it believes that we can be whatever we want to be. Love you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.